This is video number 2 in the deposition of Archbishop John Nienstedt, taken on April 2nd, 2014. Time now is 10:47 a.m.
Archbishop, going back to the monitoring program for a moment, today, are there currently any priests on the monitoring program pertaining to accusations of sexual abuse of minors?
Are there those on the PALMS program?
Yes.
Yes, there would be.
How many?
Well, the living members who are on our website.
You're talking about the 36 that are living? That are still priests?
6, that would be, yes.
Okay. Did you say 6 or 36?
36, I think. That's my recollection, anyhow.
So is it your testimony that if they're still a priest and still alive, but on the list of credibly accused, as reported on the website, which is 36 in number, they are on the PALMS monitoring program?
My understanding is yes, although they have been taken out of ministry and they've had their faculties removed, so they can't function as priests any longer.
Are there any that are on monitoring that are not on that list currently?
Yes, there would be, because the monitoring program includes those who have abused children, but also includes others who have not abused children, but who have maybe had a drinking problem or a problem with an adult, some form of bad behavior.
Are there any that are on monitoring pertaining to sexual misconduct?
Yes, there would be.
Has that been made public and known to any of the parishioners or the public?
If there's an accusation of sexual misconduct, we ask the individual priest to step aside from ministry, and that becomes known to the public, yes.
Is there an instance where you can point to where the priest has stepped aside, resigned from ministry, and the reason for that has been disclosed as allegations of sexual misconduct?
You lost me there for a minute. Could you repeat that?
Are there any instances where you've disclosed that the reason they're stepping aside or stepping down is because of allegations of sexual misconduct?
Yes, there have been cases of that.
In what case?
I'm thinking of Father Huberty.
Anybody else?
No one comes to mind. That's the case that comes to mind is the most recent.
Any cases that you know of where sexual misconduct was involved and it wasn't disclosed to the public and the parishioners as to why the priest was taking a leave or a sabbatical or resigning?
To the best of my ability, I can't think of a case.
What about Shelley?
Well,
I mean, the parishioners weren't told that he had been in possession of child pornography.
That's true.
And they weren't told, and the public was never even alerted until October of this last year when we made that public.
Well, counsel, again, you've made your record that's wrong, and there's no evidence of child pornography, as you said. The claim has been pornography, and so let's be clear. When you try to assert your facts, they're different, maybe, than the real facts. Ask the proper questions.
I was going to make that intervention and say that it was submitted to the St. Paul Police Department twice, and twice they said they didn't find child pornography.
Was everything in possession of the Archdiocese files turned over to the police for their investigation at the time they were doing that?
Yes, yes, sir.
was the report done by Setter and Associates turned over to the police?
Yes, that was part of the file.
Was the report done by Johnson, the forensic report?
I believe that was part of the file. We turned everything over in those 3 files, everything that we had.
Have you reviewed the Shelley file personally?
Personally, I've read an awful lot about that. The files themselves I have not gone through.
Okay. We'll go through that a little later. Have you told the parishioners and the public that the names of all the priests in the POMS program?
Well, there would be, as you stated before, the number that have been removed from ministry, and that would be known to the public. I'm not sure that those, and so my answer would be that everyone who has an allegation of child sexual abuse would be known to the public.
I'm asking broader than that. I'm talking about everybody in the program. Have the parishioners and the public been informed of all the priests who are in the PALMS program for whatever reason?
I'm pretty sure they have been, but I can't say for sure. But my impression is that they have been made known. They've been disclosed.
I get the impression that a lot of the responsibility for the safety of the parishioners and the public is delegated by you to folks. Is that a fair characterization or not?
Well, typically I'm a hands-on person, and but I have to delegate responsibilities. Yes.
You have been described by various peoples at various times, priests included, both in New Ulm and in the Archdiocese, as a micromanager. In terms of your management style, would you say that's a fair characterization?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, you would say a hands-on manager is a fair characterization, because I think those are your words, right?
Right, correct.
Do you feel you have taken a hands-on approach to sexual abuse of priests? Excuse me, sexual abuse of minors by priests in this Archdiocese?
Yes, I believe so.
What action, besides the PALMS program that you've talked about, demonstrates your hands-on approach to sexual abuse by priests in this Archdiocese?
Well, the whole Virtus program that we have, that assures us that people are the people are receiving background checks, they're being given training in terms of what to look for, signs. We've had clergy study days in which we've discussed all these related issues.
Anything else?
That doesn't come to mind.
I'd like to ask you about Joseph Gallatin. Is he on any list?
He would be on the PALMS program.
And besides those, and that would be for sexual misconduct pertaining to minors, correct?
There was an allegation. That allegation is being investigated now, and so I can't say definitively that it was.
When you say being investigated, is that by the police?
Yes.
Do you have a practice that if an allegation is being investigated by the police, that you do not take action as to that priest because you believe that to do so would suggest the priest's guilt?
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
We
just a moment.
Well, let him. He can answer his question.
He said that's not correct.
Well, he can answer and tell you why. So you can finish, Archbishop.
Okay.
You can ask him why.
He can finish his question and answer to the question.
Is your
counsel.
answer no?
Could you repeat the question, please? I'm
Do
a
you
little
have
confused right now.
Do you have a practice that if a priest is being investigated by the police for child sexual abuse, that you do not take any public action as to that priest because you believe to do so would suggest the guilt of the priest?
No, sir.
Have you ever expressed that view to any of those who occupy positions as officials in the Archdiocese, such as your current chancellors, or your former chancellors, or your auxiliary bishops or vicar generals?
No, because we let the police do their own work. And then we would have our own investigation. We have two boards set up, one that deals with precisely the charter issues, and then we have a ministerial standards board that we've set up for everything else. And those would be the areas that would ask for and do the investigation.
Did you ever express that view or practice or the desire to employ such a practice to Jennifer Hesselberger?
I'm sorry, what view or practice?
The view that you would take no action concerning a priest while there's a police investigation.
Well, we do take the action of removing him from ministry.
But do you say why?
It depends on the case.
Okay. And do you also choose not to tell the people in the pews, in the parishes, in the public, because you don't want the suggestion of guilt of the priest to have been made by that disclosure?
Well, by the very fact that the priest is removed from public ministry is a signal to the people that something's wrong. But we haven't done our investigation.
Well, Father John Shelley went on sabbatical, and he told everybody he went on sabbatical, right?
He did, I believe, yes.
Yeah, that was with your permission, that he told everybody that, right?
That's true. He was on sabbatical.
But the fact of the matter was that it had been discovered that he had been in possession of possible child pornography.
Objection, that misstates the facts and evidence as well.
Is that correct?
No, it's not correct. He was in possession of pornography, but he was never accused of a crime.
Is it your belief that for him to be guilty of the crime of sexual abuse or possession of child pornography, he has to be charged with it by the law enforcement authority?
Our standard practice is that when we receive an allegation or we have reason to believe that there has been a violation, we turn that matter over to the police immediately, which is what we did in his case.
And then if the police do not charge, is it then your belief and practice that the priest is effectively exonerated?
We would do our own investigation after that.
And you said that Shelley was turned over to the police. When was that?
When the incident was prior to my time, so I can't give you a date, but it was on my understanding two occasions that was given. The files were given to the police.
Right. In 2004, you're aware that your predecessor, Archbishop Flynn, and his subordinates became aware of his possession of materials that were borderline child pornography, at least, correct?
Objection, you're again misstating facts.
I don't know when that happened. I don't have a recollection of that. I do know that on two occasions that computer was taken to the police. But on two occasions it was also said that it wasn't child pornography.
Did you ever, while the Archbishop here, tell anyone to report Shelley to the police?
Did I? The incident happened prior to my being Archbishop.
I know, but he continued as a priest while you were Archbishop.
That's true.
And he continues as a priest to this day, although he is on sabbatical, correct?
He's on a leave of absence at this present moment.
And when he took that leave, he told the people that he was going on sabbatical, did he not?
Yes, he did.
And a party was held.
I don't know that.
So my question to you is, did you personally or order anyone in your charge to report Shelley to police?
I don't know that I did, no.
You say you don't know that you did. What does that mean?
Well, I don't have the recollection of having done that.
Okay, so you don't recall ever having told anybody or instructed anybody to report to the police or having done it yourself, correct?
My understanding is that there was a question on the part of my canonical chancellor as to the matter of the computer, and my moderator of the Curia, Father Laird at the time, instructed her to take it to the police.
Are you referring to Jennifer Hesselberger?
I am.
She was urging you to report it to the police, wasn't she?
I thought she was working in our priests' work group, and the topic came up, and my understanding was that Father Laird had instructed her to take that to the police.
Archbishop, you wrote a letter to the CDF, the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, and Cardinal Leveda, specifically stating that you're concerned that your advisors have told you that you may be in violation of the law by reason of possible possession of child pornography previously possessed by Shelley, correct?
No.
Never wrote such a letter?
No. The letter was drafted by Jennifer Hesselberger, but when I read it, I did further investigation, realized that this was not correct, and the letter was never sent.
And did you look at the images?
I did. She showed me some images, yes.
She claims that those images that she brought to you and showed to you were child pornography or borderline child pornography, and should have been reported to the police, correct?
No, I looked at those images and I could not tell whether they were adolescents or older.
It was a close call, wasn't it?
It was, yes.
Yeah. And so she urged you to turn that over to the law enforcement for them to make that determination, didn't she?
She may have, but it had already been turned over to the police department, and the verdict had come back that it wasn't child pornography.
You're talking about in 2004?
Well, probably, yes.
Well, what are you talking about? It's already been turned over.
It had been given to the St. Paul Police Department, and the police department had said that it wasn't child pornography.
When Jennifer Hesselberger placed the images before you and you looked at them, correct?
Correct.
She urged you, because they were borderline, and you couldn't make the determination, and by looking at them, you couldn't make the determination, and didn't, that it should go to the police, correct?
I don't recall her at the time saying that.
What did she say?
I don't recall.
When did you view those images, Archbishop?
I don't recall the exact date. I'm trying to think, but I can't recall the exact time.
When you made the determination that you yourself couldn't tell on viewing those images whether it was adolescents or adults, did you report that to the police?
I did not.
You're a mandatory reporter, aren't you?
I am.
And you're aware as a mandatory reporter that you are required to report immediately any suspicions of child abuse, correct?
Correct.
And you're also aware that pornographic images of children is child abuse.
Correct. I was not able to determine that that was child pornography.
Why do you think we have reporting statutes? It's for the police and professionals to make that determination.
Correct, and they already had.
When did you learn they had already determined that these images were not illegal?
Prior to the time of her showing them to me.
Who told you the police had made that determination?
I believe it was Father McDonough.
When did he tell you that? How soon before you viewed those images?
I don't recall. It was some time before, I believe.
What does some time mean? A month, a week, a day?
I'm trying to recollect, and I don't have that answer.
Jennifer Hasselberger was telling you that she believed them to have been child abuse and, in fact, pornographic images of children, correct?
I believe that she believed that to be true.
Yes. And Kevin McDonough also had viewed those images, correct?
To the best of my recollection, I think he had.
And he took a different view, didn't he?
He did.
And what was his view expressed to you?
Well, I can't say for sure that he expressed this to me, but I know that from others that he believed that they were not child pornography.
Did McDonough tell you he had reported to the police?
He told me that that in 2004 that the computer and everything on it, the discs, had been reported to the police. Yes.
So you were relying on McDonough's representation to you in 2000, I think it was 12, that it had been reported back to the police in 2004? Is that what you're telling us today?
Yes.
Did you ever learn if it actually had been reported to the police in 2004?
Well, yes.
What informs you that in fact the police had received a report concerning these images in 2004?
So there was a record.
A record in the file?
Yes.
Prepared by whom?
I can't answer that.
When did you see that record that you're relying upon for that assertion?
When the whole matter was brought up about whether or not the whole file had been turned over, there was some discrepancy there. Jennifer believed that the whole file hadn't been turned over. Subsequently, when we did an investigation with the person who worked on the computer, and he indicated that everything had been encrypted into those files.
What person are you referring to?
I think it was whoever worked for the Sutter Corporation.
There is a record that that person's report and the forensic report done by them has been withheld by your lawyer, Tom Weiser, from the police.
That's not true.
When was it turned over then by the Archdiocese?
Subsequent to that, to my seeing the images, Jennifer took that to the St. Paul Police Department, and they were given all the materials over again.
You did not instruct Jennifer to make that report, did you?
No, Father Laird did.
Did Father Laird tell you that he had told her to report?
Yes.
When was that Laird told you that he had instructed her to make such a report?
I think it was in 2012. I can't give you an exact date.
Did Father Laird view the images?
I can't say for sure.
Then why was Laird involved in this conversation about whether it should be reported? And how is it you now claim that it was Laird that told Hesselberger to make the report?
Well, because we had what we called a priests working group that Father Laird started when he came aboard as the moderator of the Curia. They would meet twice a month, and they would review any misbehavior on the part of any of the priests or deacons. And they would discuss this among themselves. There would be the canonical chancellor there, the civil chancellor, the moderator, the delegate for safe environments, so that everyone had a complete picture of what was going on. And it was at one of those meetings that this question of the Shelley files came up. And it's my understanding that Father Laird indicated to Jennifer that she should take that to the police.
Did you disagree with Laird?
No.
Did you disagree with Jennifer Hesselberger on whether this should be reported to law enforcement?
No, not at the time, no.
Did you express disagreement to her at any time that she should not report this because it was not a violation of the law or for some other reason?
I suspect, thinking back on it, that I told her that it had already been submitted to the police, and that having received an answer from them on their opinion of what was on the file, that it was not necessary to take it to the police a second time.
And when you told her that, she told you, in fact, the file does not reflect that it had been reported to the police earlier, correct?
I don't believe so.
Do you recall her becoming quite animated and adamant about that?
I don't recall that, no.
Did you instruct her to leave it alone?
She asked my opinion. I told her, I cannot make a judgment here. This has already been looked at by the police. It doesn't seem to me reasonable that we would take it back to the police the second time.
And you have no recollection of having been told by her that, in fact, the police had not examined this earlier. Only internal Archdiocese officials and their consultants had reviewed it.
It was not my understanding. My understanding was it had been turned over to the police in 2004.
At that time, when there was this differing view, did you make an effort to actually discern, by review of the file itself, whether or not such a report had ever been actually made to the police concerning Shelley?
If you're asking me if I reviewed the file with that purpose in mind, no, I did not.
What law enforcement agency do you believe it was reported to?
St. Paul Police Department.
And what date do you believe that was made?
I think you indicated in 2004.
Who at the Archdiocese made such a report, in your belief, in 2004?
It would have been either Mr. Eisenzimmer or Father McDonough.
Are you speculating, or do you have some reason to believe they actually did?
Well, they were the ones that had the responsibility, so I guess I am speculating.
So you're assuming that, aren't you?
I think with reasonable certitude.
And you base that reasonable certitude on what?
On the trust I have in the people who were telling me that they had already done it.
So because you trust them, and because you know that this information was possessed in 2004, you're assuming they made a report as required by the law in 2004. Is that correct?
Well, again, counsel, you're misstating the record.
Well, I'm asking if that's correct. If it's wrong, he can say so.
No.
Is that correct, Archbishop?
No.
No.
Wait, Archbishop.
If you have an objection, make it.
I
Is it
am
correct?
making it. And no, don't wait. Wait, Archbishop. Counsel, again, your facts are not the record. You can't create facts, okay? You can't misstate record and
Don't give me a
evidence.
lecture.
I
Just
am
give me an
giving you a
objection
lecture
if you have
because
one.
you continue to do it. And it's improper. That's not what the law allows. Now, he's already told you that someone told him that. And you've asked him 5 times at least the same question. So if you want to ask another question in a proper way that has information in that asks him what the facts are as opposed to your facts, that's fine.
Today, you can't tell me who made the report, can you?
I can tell you with reasonable certitude, but I cannot tell you for sure.
Okay. So, who made the report with reasonable certitude?
I would suspect it would have been Father McDonough.
When did that person make that report with reasonable certitude?
When the matter was brought up, apparently in 2004.
Question is when? Do you know with reasonable certitude the report was made?
No.
Okay. With reasonable certitude, to whom was that made?
To whom I don't understand the question. To the St. Paul Police Department, you mean?
Who at the St. Paul Police Department?
I have no idea. That was before my time.
And on what do you base your answers using the term reasonable certitude that the report was made? On what do you base that?
On the trust and confidence that I have in the people who were working for me.
Have you ever seen a record that demonstrates in the file that such a report was made?
I did not see a receipt, no. I was told that there was one, and I had no reason not to believe it.
And again, who told you that?
I believe that would have been Mr. Eisenzimmer.
And when did he tell you that?
When the whole matter came up again in 2012.
And have you reviewed anything since then that demonstrates that not to have been the case?
No, I have not.